Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jay Cohn.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. The fire burning through Glacier National Park has now consumed more than 2,500 acres, and with it, decades and decades of history reduced to ashes.
Tonight, Glacier officials still assessing the destruction as this Howe Ridge fire burns on near Lake McDonald.
The lightning-sparked fire has settled down significantly over the past 24 hours, but smoke blankets the Glacier Park horizon.
The air there is so smoky that the Montana Department of Environmental Quality says no one should be outdoors in that area. Now, as the moderate temperatures of today slow down the fire's growth, firefighters, we're told, are now focusing their attention on smaller fire starts in the Lake McDonald area. 60 personnel are now assigned to this fire. More assistance, though, is coming from the air.
Evacuation orders are still in place for the entire Lake McDonald complex, and Going to the Sun Road remains closed from Lake McDonald to Logan Pass. For some property owners, there's a little relief in knowing their homes are still standing, but there's no knowing how long that security will last.
We want to spread our hoses all around the house, all around the cabin. We have 2 cabins there. We can sleep 16 people in beds, so it's a pretty extensive piece of property for us, and we want to save it.
You know, all of the buildings, I mean ours and everybody else and our neighbors, are insured. So, but depending upon the nature of the terrain, you know, and we'll have to decide whether we rebuild or.
Many of the buildings that did burn were historic structures, some of which were built even before Glacier Park was established as a national park.
Q2 Samantha Harrelson joins us now with some of that history. Sammy.
Jay and Jeanelle, Park Superintendent Jeff Mao says it's a heartbreaking time in the park as multiple residences and historic buildings burn as a result of this fire. Park officials say many of those structures were in Kelly's Camp and the Wheeler Complex. Both areas are on the National Register of Historic Places. As you can see in this map, multiple structures line the lake in that area. 7 private residences and outbuildings were lost at Kelly's Camp, as well as the main Kelly's Camp house, a second cabin, and other structures under National Park Service ownership. 1 cabin did survive in that area. Kelly's Camp was developed by Frank and Emmeline Kelly in 1894 before Glacier received national park status. By 1931, it had become a popular summer cabin resort, and in the 1960s, cabins were sold to individual owners. The Wheeler Complex, located east of Kelly's Camp, was once owned by Montana Senator Burton K. Wheeler, who used it as a summer home starting back in 1916. The National Park Service acquired the property in 2014. There, 3 outbuildings burned, as well as the Wheeler Boathouse. The good news, firefighters were able to save the main Wheeler cabin even after it caught fire. The Lake McDonald Ranger Station was also saved following a fire on its roof. Jay and Jeanelle.
All right, thanks, Samantha.
After 7 years of litigation, the sexual abuse case against the Catholic Diocese of Great Falls Billings ends in a $20 million settlement. 86
plaintiffs were part of this lawsuit that accused multiple priests and nuns of sexually abusing children from the 1950s through the 1990s. Now, the diocese filed for bankruptcy back in March of 2017. Almost half of the plaintiffs were represented by the Tamaki Law Office in Washington. Its press release today states that Bishop Michael Warfel testified that the process used to reach the settlement was, quote, just and appropriate.
To pay off the $20 million settlement, the diocese will contribute $5 million. The parishes in eastern Montana, $4 million. $2 million from the Catholic Foundation of Eastern Montana, $1 million from the St. Libre Indian School, and $8 million from Catholic Mutual. That's the insurance company of the diocese. Now, the diocese has also agreed to post a list of all known past and present clergy members who've been identified by victims on its website.
Now, the diocese filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in March of 2017. That was months before jury trials for victims' civil cases were set to begin.
Now, 1 year later, the diocese filed to dismiss the bankruptcy. Bishop Warfel said then that the legal case was draining too much of the church resources that could go to victims.
In political news tonight, the Montana Green Party making a new push to get its candidates back on the Montana ballot for this fall's election. In a lawsuit filed in federal court on Monday, the Green Party is asking that part of Montana's ballot qualification laws be struck down and that the names of the party's 5 candidates be put back on the November ballot. Now, this suit is in response to a ruling last month when a state court ordered the Green Party candidates be removed from the ballot. That order invalidated 82 voter signatures, causing the party to fall short in its effort to qualify candidates for the ballot. Monday's lawsuit claims that the state's party ballot qualifications are unconstitutional. The Green Party had candidates qualified for both the U.S. Senate and House, as well as 3 legislative districts. The deadline to make changes to the ballot is now just 2 weeks away.
A Montana ballot initiative slated for November has faced a number of challenges just to get there, but one of Montana's top attorneys says its wording is not one of the problems. The Initiative 185 would raise the state cigarette tax by $2, bringing the total tax to $3.70 per pack. Just last week, Montanans Against Tax Hikes filed a complaint with the Montana Supreme Court stating the summary voters will be seeing on the ballot is misleading. But on Monday, Chief Deputy Attorney John Binion said the group's requests are minor and at this stage in the process don't rise to a level warranting court revisions. Now, he says the ballot is easily understood and, quote, the ballot statements along with official and unofficial sources of information give voters the background needed to cast an informed ballot. This year's election is November 6th. You can see more details of this complaint in this story at ktvq.com.
It is another busy night ahead at Montana Fair. The Supercross competition is the main event.
Q2's Zoe Zandora was out at the track earlier today as riders rev up for the big night.
Over the course of 4 days, the Billings Motorcycle Club has transformed the infield at the grandstand into a competitive track for the Supercross competition on Tuesday night.
Guys that come up that are motocross guys that have been building track for years and years, and every year we do a different design. We bring in approximately 200 to 250 dump truck loads of dirt in. From the backside here, we use giant scrapers to bring that in and drop it. And then over about 4 days, the Billings Motorcycle Club comes in and builds the track with heavy equipment, bulldozers, loaders, skid steers, gets the track ready. We have the race, and then immediately after the race, we bring the big bulldozers and stuff out and smash the track down.
And if you can believe it, this track after the competition will be quickly transformed into a rodeo arena, and we'll give you that full coverage on Thursday. In Billings, Zoe Zandora, MTN News.
All right, thanks, Zoe. Look forward to that coverage tomorrow. Big crowd expected tonight, and the cooler temperatures have to be welcome.
Wonderful. Yeah. Coming up on tonight's 5:30 News, the future is looking clearer for those affected by diabetes. We'll check out the latest vision loss advancements.
And coming up later tonight in sports, this airman is protecting our country while at the same time staying a top athlete. Find out how he does it.
And coming up in the weather, we had a nice cool day in the Billings area, but a severe thunderstorms will go through basically Sheridan area. Later tonight and tomorrow, we're looking at temperatures warming back up into the 90s by the end of the week. We'll tell you all about it coming up in a few more minutes.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Jeanelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.